Nice shot, Greg.
Straighten up. Hey guys, elk week, and this is serious. No more clowning around. Can you do that?
No.
No, try it. But this is really serious business. Bullets. This is what it is all about. Your rifle, your scope, the cartridge you choose. Those are secondary considerations because it's the bullet that does all the work. All that other stuff is just designed to launch that bullet and send it to the right place.
It is the delivery mechanism to get it there. This is the package.
Yeah, and the package is lined up in front of us. These are the things you need to consider for elk hunting. The most important thing, well, other than being in shape and getting a license and getting out there.
Yes. But there's a few things that I've seen a lot of elk get shot. Probably right around 140 to 150 elk get shot. I've seen them shot with just about everything you can think of. I'm sure you've seen animals get shot with pretty much everything too. But well, I guess let's start. Like, you want to start at the cup and core and kind of work our way up?
Yes, because bullets have evolved over the years. And a lot of people say, oh, it's nonsense. They're all the same. No, they're not.
They're not the same.
And we're going to explain why. You guys can make up your own mind on what you think is going to work. As we've said, they all can work if you understand what their limitations are. So let us start with the traditional cup and core bullet. And these are not all necessarily the same diameter bullets when we show you the sections and things, but we're able to show you what a bullet looks like inside. The first two we see right here, Berger and a Hornady SST, these are what I call classic cup and core bullets, meaning you have a cup of gilding metal or a tube, and you put some lead inside of it, and then you turn it into a bullet by squeezing it. Can you get that thing to stand up there?
I don't know if I'll hold it there.
Yeah, hold those things up there.
You just explain it.
So you've got a gilding metal jacket. You put literally a lead cable inside of it, and then you squeeze it into shape. And there's your bullet. The problem is that they can come apart when they hit game, and that's represented by these two pieces right here. There's your cup, and there's a little bit of the lead core that's left. That can be a dramatic killer because when that explodes, that shrapnel tears a lot of tissue.
And also, it'll dump energy. For smaller animals, that's an okay thing. But for elk and moose and stuff, you can hit them with a lot of energy. That doesn't do anything to them.
Well, if you hit them in the heart or the lungs, great. But if you just hit a muscle mass like the shoulder or a bone, you get a flesh wound.
So I had a guy shoot an elk 100 yards with a 168 grain Berger VLD Hunter, 100 yards. It should have been a perfect heart shot, but he hit a rib. That Berger blew up all over one rib, exploded all over one lung. There was pieces all the way in the guts. It was a bad time. And that elk didn't fall down. It took off running. It ran about 300 yards, and we finally found it. Didn't bleed a whole lot, but it only hit one lung. Only about 6-8 inches of penetration.
Yeah. But, again, I know guys who have put that same bullet right between the ribs and got it into the lungs, and then it explodes, and it makes just a big,
huge hole. And I shot an elk. The longest shot I've ever taken was with a Berger bullet, 100 or 765 yards, and it had a full pass through. The bullet stayed together quite well, much similar to what a bonded bullet would look like at a closer range.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. So with the frangible bullets, I'll call these frangible, cup and core bullets are pretty frangible. The higher the velocity, the more likely they're going to break up and not penetrate. But the further you get to your target, 300 yards, 400 yards, 500 yards, that bullet is now going slowly enough that it can stay together and perform like a more traditional thing. Okay, those are the cup and core bullets, and there are a lot of them out there. Core locks from Remington, power points from Winchester, the soft points from Federal. Think of your older style bullets, cup and core. Relatively inexpensive. They can work, but you've got to be careful on how you place them. The next step up is the bonded bullet. All that means is it's pretty much the same deal, and here's a cutaway of one, but it's bonded. This is an interbond from Hornady, and they have molecularly bonded, or you could say welded, the two metals together. So the jacket material is fused with the lead, so they do not break apart, and the result on target is something like this. They can get quite mangled, and the lead can erode, but the two pieces should stay together. And then instead of having something like this, where you've got that empty jacket, the lead is still there. And what does that mean? More momentum.
It means more momentum. You're going to have more penetration.
More penetration, right. So that is why a lot of folks like the bonded bullets. Another bonded bullet is the Swift Sirocco. And I think we've got one cut apart right here. Here's the Swift Sirocco. Let's get rid of this guy for now.
Yep.
Now, don't get confused with these plastic tips. A lot of folks say, well, those are ballistic tips. They're really great. They do this, that, the other thing. Look, a lot of bullets have plastic tips on them or polymer tips and has a minimal contribution to terminal performance. It's got more to do with keeping your bullet sleek and high ballistics coefficient. So don't get confused on that kind of stuff. But the important thing is the bonding of those two materials. And yes, that polymer tip can act sort of like, what would you say, an arrow or something pushing in and spreading it out to initiate.
A wedge.
There you go, a wedge. That's the complicated word I was looking for. A wedge that opens up. But I have found that most of these thinly jacketed bullets, you don't really need a wedge to open them up. No. They're landing with so much energy, 3,000 foot-pounds of energy. You're going to open that bullet up, flatten it out, and all kinds of stuff. So don't worry about that. Now, here's an example of a bonded bullet that really did flatten out a lot. All the lead tried to stay together with the jacket, and you can see that. But look at how much lead has been lost. There's hardly any shank left to that bullet.
No, there's no shank almost.
Yeah, and what does that work against you on an elk? You got a lot of expansion, tear more tissue.
But you're not going to have as much penetration.
Yeah, momentum's going to be lost because you got more friction. That'll slow it down, and there's no mass behind it to drive forward. It'd be better to have a longer shank behind it. Yep. But at least it's staying in one piece. So those are your bonded bullets. Let me think. What do we move up to now?
I'd go with the A-frame right there, maybe.
Yeah, partitions and A-frames. The next step up is kind of, how do you keep more mass in your bullet? You can go with a partition. And Nosler did it first. The partition is that horizontal line of jacket material through the center of the bullet. This particular example is a Swift A-frame. It's more of a beefed up. I don't have a sectioned example of the partition right now, but the Nosler partition and the A-frame are designed to stay together with that wall holding the shank in. And what we just said about the previous one where you didn't have any shank left in the back, you're not going to have that problem with these because that shank is locked in. So even if you lose the nose lead, you're not going to lose that.
Can't lose it.
Now on the partition, and this is a partition bullet right here, a 220 grain. This is a popular moose and elk bullet in the 30s. 220 grains, partition. It'll have that wall about down through the middle, but the nose lead is not bonded in, so you're going to generally lose all of that. The A-frame simply bonds that lead a nose in, and then you end up with this, kind of a classic. Plus you've got a double bulge. The lead that's locked back into the shank will bulge out as well.
Yep.
But it does not expand as much as something like this bonded bullet, which has no wall. Now, this is a larger diameter bullet to start with. I think this is more like a 375, but gives you an idea.
Mushrooms out, it's going to create a bigger wound channel, but may not get as much penetration because it's flowering out too much, right?
And remember, none of this stuff is the same every time.
No.
Depending on where you hit that animal and your velocity when the bullet arrives, and oh my gosh, there's just a lot involved. But in general, this is kind of what you can expect from the partition bullets. They're controlling their expansion. They don't want to overexpand. All right, let's move those out and bring in the next category. I would say we should go with the monolithics, the copper bullets. And there's a lot of confusion around copper bullets. There are many, many copper bullets on the market these days, and this is kind of what they do.
They're awesome.
They're awesome. That's just shortening the whole program up
great.
Right there.
We're done. Let's go.
But a lot of people think, oh, they don't open up, and they don't open enough, and blah, blah, blah. They are pretty darn consistent in the way they open. I have always found them to be quite reliable, quite accurate. The advantage is it is one material, so there are no parts that are going to come apart. You don't have to bond anything. It's all the same monolithic material.
Disadvantage would be that they're usually lighter for the same length bullet.
Length, right, because the specific gravity of copper or the weight of copper per area is lighter than of lead.
Yes.
So you get an advantage with a heavier bullet in lead. With the copper to get that same weight bullet, let's say a 180 grain bullet in a 30 caliber.
Maybe a 165 in a copper.
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit shorter. It's got to be lighter for the same length. And if you get too long, of course, it won't stabilize in your twist rate. In general, though, because they don't lose any weight, you can easily step down a size or two in your weight levels.
Yes.
And get the same penetration.
Exactly.
Because your bullet retains more mass. You're not shedding that lead when it lands.
I shot a whitetail last year in the chest, and it, lodged in its back ham. You're looking at 4.5 feet of penetration out of a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
So.
But this is kind of classic. You usually get a little bit wider. This looks like a big 458, probably shot on a Cape Buffalo or something. But this looks like a 30 caliber right
Only
here.
you would be able to say that.
Yeah, I think I took. Now there's a lot of other people do it. But this one, I think I took out of a grizzly bear.
Ooh.
Shot right to the grizzly bear and went in the snow behind it. It was a 180 grain bullet out of a 300 Magnum. And when I got it home like this and weighed it, it was still 180 grains.
Yeah, I think when I weighed that bullet I found, I think the only grain I lost, there was 1 grain off, and it's because of the tip had come off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so those are your monolithic all-copper bullets. They can be hollow-nosed like this. They can have a plastic tip on them and a lot of different things. Here's even a really goofy one. This is actually designed for buffalo and stuff. Kind of a cupped, flat nose on it for straight-line penetration. When your bullet has a curvature or an ogive on the nose, it is variable pressure when it strikes anything. If it hits a bone on one side, not the other, it will push it over to the side. If it hits just a little bit tougher meat on one side than the other, it will push it. So you don't get straight penetration.
Yeah.
If you have a big animal and you want to penetrate to the vitals at a weird angle, you want a bullet that's not going to veer off course. So some people like flat-nosed bullets.
Yeah, yeah.
Round-nosed bullets work even better than these sleek high BC bullets. But in general, that bullet lands with so much energy and so much force, it begins to warp and twist and tumble and break up and all that stuff, and you're going to get pretty good terminal performance. I want to say one more thing about bonded bullets. This is a bonded bullet. It landed with such velocity and such force that all of the lead, pretty much all of the lead, got stripped away just from friction against the animal. All the tissues. And you look at it, you'll say, well, yeah, there's some gray on there, that's the lead, but look at how little there is remaining in that. It was a 180 grain bullet when it landed. It doesn't weigh anywhere close to that now. But it didn't fall out, it got eroded out just from the muscle tissue, I guess.
Bone, muscle.
Doesn't usually happen like that, but it shows what can and why these copper bullets don't do that.
Yeah.
They're so hard that they open up and you've got your expansion and you've got all your mass. You got a long shank to drive it forward. That's why we like them so much.
Now, that being said, I think that I've seen a lot of elk get shot, right? And right now we're talking specifically for elk. I would probably say that the ones that I've seen work the best, I've seen elk killed, and I've killed elk with almost all of these, is something that penetrates a little bit better, especially in smaller calibers, 6.5 and up, 7s even. I like the bullet to go all the way through them. Mm-hmm. When you shoot an elk, even with a 338, I've seen an elk get shot 3 or 4 times with a 338, and it still didn't go down. It had to bleed to death before it fell down. What you want is a blood trail. You're not necessarily looking for a one-shot bang flop. It's just not usually going to happen that way with elk.
Boy, I agree. That's been my experience, yeah. They're going to generally run. I've shot elk, I think 3 times is the most I've ever shot an elk. The first shot was a killing shot right in the lungs, but he's going to run.
With elk, you don't stop till they fall down.
Exactly. So after my 3rd shot, he fell down. But if you don't have that blood trail and you're in some big heavy cover, it makes it a lot more difficult to make a recovery.
It does. And, I would just, I've used a lot of ELDXs, which is just a normal cup and core bullet. But I've started to go more and more towards these copper bullets. The technology that is coming out around the copper bullets and the weights you can get copper bullets in now, it's kind of hard not to pay mind to them.
I agree. But everybody gets to make up his or her own mind on these things. It's just, of course. The important thing is that know what these bullets are doing. Too many people go around saying, oh, you've got to use the 300 Win Mag or the 338 Win Mag or the 338 Lapua Mag or some cartridge. And it's not the cartridge that's making the difference. It's the bullet.
And sometimes people are like, oh, the Burgers have the best BC of any bullet, of any hunting bullet. And that is true, but maybe that's not the best bullet for the specific game or the specific distances that you're hunting. So just be aware of what's happening when that bullet hits the game and what you want in your terminal performance.
I would say that the Burger style of bullet with that really fly far and retain a lot of energy downrange can work darn well farther down range.
Yes.
It's when you get closer that they kind of go to pieces because there's too much energy for that material to stay
It's
together.
not really designed for that
Yeah.
at closer ranges.
And then on the flip side, some of these all copper bullets need a little more velocity to open, to expand. And you hear a lot of people complaining that, well, they don't open. Well, if you shot something at 700 yards, maybe they didn't open.
Yeah.
But if it's at 100 yards or that elk gets right up in front of you, that bullet's going to stay together, going to flatten right out like that, open up beautifully. So you've got to understand what these bullets are doing at different distances because as your velocity changes. I always say a 30-378 Weatherby Magnum shooting a 200 grain bullet at some point is going to have the same on-target energy as the 30-30 at a different distance. So you've got to consider how far away is that
Same
elk.
cartridge, guys. It doesn't matter.
So I think that's the point we want to get across on these bullets, no?
Yeah, I think it's just pick the bullet that's right for your situation, but be aware of how all these different bullets work. And I would recommend that you have a bullet, depending on whatever you're going to choose, that will have penetration at the distance you're going to be hunting at, in the situation and the game that you're going to be hunting with.
But that's the challenge, the distance at which you're going to be hunting. Well, we're going to hunt for miles. I mean,
I get paid a lot more.
It's where you're going to shoot him.
321 yards tied to a tree.
I'll take him at 30 yards. Same tree, same rope. Different bullet. All right, guys, if you have any questions about this, feel free to write in to RonSpomerOutdoors.com or comment on this video. Let us know what your experiences are. But do be a little bit cautious on this. Just because you shot one elk one time with one bullet and he died instantly, don't say that's the world's greatest bullet and everything else is junk. It's just not a fair comparison. No. Somebody like Tate here, who's watched a lot of different people with a lot of different cartridges and a lot of different bullets shoot a lot of elk, he's got a little bit better perception of what's going on.
Yes. I mean, and there's a difference between, it'll work. All these bullets will work at almost any ethical hunting range. 400 yards or less, almost all these bullets are going to work. But there's some that will be better than others at certain ranges. So just be mindful of that.
Yep, know your stuff. I think that's probably all we need to fight, all right?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
If we're right. We could be wrong.
Well, we usually are.
Best advice we can give you guys. We're not saying we're the experts on all of this, but we've kind of been around the block and seen a lot of this stuff happen. So we're just trying to provide you with what we've learned, and we are more than willing to keep an open mind on what you've discovered as well.
Yeah, put those in the comments below. Even, if you guys have had a different experience with any of these bullets, it's always good to learn from each other.
Yeah, and I'll guarantee you, somebody's going to say, this is the best bullet, this is the worst bullet. This is the best bullet, this is the worst bullet. Then we'll have two sides of that.
And the best part is they're all right.
In that particular situation, they probably were. Okay, that's enough about elk bullets for now. We've got to go load some up on our favorite cartridges for our favorite rifles and get ready for elk season because it is just around the corner.
I've got 2 tags this year.
Oh, I only have 1, but it's going to be a big one.
Mine's a cow.
Hey, guys, good luck with whatever bullet you choose, whichever rifle and cartridge you choose. Enjoy your elk hunting. Even if you don't get a shot, you're going to have a blast out there because this is pretty special to be able to go out in God's wilderness and enjoy a hunt the way man has been designed to do for the last several million years or however long it's been we've been here. I'm loving it and hope you do too. So this is Ron Spomer with Tate Bradfield, Super Guide, and we're wishing you all the best this season and every season from here on out. Hunt honest and shoot straight. We'll see you next time. So do you think this elk camp was of any benefit to you?
Oh, I think it was wonderful. It exceeded my expectations, and I think the instruction for 20 guys or more, the ability for them to kind of guide us and show us the ropes in an efficient manner was just fantastic. I would highly recommend it.